running full speed, but the markets are faster. Quasar Markets Live brings the world's top financial minds to you. Everything you need to know in one place. Learn from elite educators and gain a competitive edge, leveling the playing field for you. Join the conversation. Quasar Markets Live.
Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. I hope everyone's having a good start to your Tuesday here. Markets are a mixed bag so far. We are set tick rate advanced decline right now down about 358, so fairly neutral overall. Q set to open down about 36 basis points here, back down just below 550, 549.67. SPY also slated to open down about a quarter of a percentage point here. And markets, like I said, looking a little bit weak so far this morning. One of the ones I want to start off with here today is let's start to talk about Tesla. If anybody was watching, CNBC or anything this morning, you probably saw the president was out and, giving his little spiel about what's going on there. So, it seems like we've got Trump versus Musk again. We've got some crypto news to talk about today, Robinhood and Circle. Will mention two companies BigBeat was very negative on recently that I said, let's wait and see, and they are both taken off. I don't think it was hard to see on Robinhood. Circle to me is overexceeded by far its market cap that it should have. We'll get into some news there. They are going to try to become a actually fully working digital asset bank. So we'll see there. But as I mentioned, Robinhood was really poised, especially to take over in the new world of regulatory clarity coming in crypto. And man, Robinhood excited people yesterday with their huge announcement. So let's start with Tesla, though, starting with the big one. It is still under pressure, down over 6% this morning. And why is, again, the political and subsidy showdown. Musk came out, was pretty negative against the different senators that are backing the president's one big beautiful bill there, or whatever he's calling it. And now President Trump this morning suggested that the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, should ironically investigate subsidies to Musk's company. Elon clapped back on X. He called Trump's tax and spending bill utterly insane and destructive. But what we have seen last time is this led to a pretty big move down by Tesla when these guys fought last time, all the way from a high of around 367 to a low near 375 here. Do know BigBeat mentioned this morning that he is looking to buy on any kind of move back to 280 here. So he is a buy the dip buyer, but looking for a pretty significant dip there. I don't argue with it there. I do like it in that same range personally. But, this is all about tweet analysis versus technical analysis. Let's be honest when it comes to that. Another stock down pretty hard today, AVAV, which is AeroVironment. The defense stock is getting hit hard after announcing a $750 million stock offering and another $600 million in raise through convertible notes. So about $1.4 billion in new issuance. It is definitely diluted, will dilute it, market down now more than 8%. And I will point out that that's almost a 10% of their market cap that they are looking to raise here. So AeroVironment definitely getting hit on that news so far this morning. For me, it's sort of, this one, has been really high flying. So it's in a little bit of no man's land. I'd want to see, again, a significant pullback before I would want to get into it there. But that news, usually those news as those convertible stocks and as that stock offering gets issued out, that tends to wear out a little bit. On the side of a little bit better news, Hasbro, one of my favorite toy companies, we'll try that again. Goldman Sachs just gave them a big upgrade, moving the stock to buy, citing some strong new product sets from Magic the Gathering. That's the tailwind here. Seems to be a big deal. I'm not that knowledgeable in what is the gatherings, or much about it, except for that it's a card-based game that I know. But I have noticed that the store that sort of specializes in that here in my hometown now in Ohio has been busier and busier, and I've noticed they've expanded. So I'm guessing that segment as a segment, sort of the role-playing games, RPGs are starting to pick up again. So that would be more of a takeaway there. Another upgrade that has a company moving here today, a company that had been hit pretty hard yesterday, Hyatt, up about 2.71% here in pre-morning trading. And people are happy because, or the analyst is happy because they are actually lightening their load. They offloaded their Playa-owned real estate, and they said that was a significant overhang. And Raymond James said that offloading those real estate properties will allow Hyatt to focus more on properties that can bring more revenue in, and stop eating so much cash in that area. So Hyatt, nice little move up on that today. Another company getting hit a little bit this morning is Textron. And again, this one is one that's got a downgrade. Goldman Sachs took away the love from Textron, downgrading it on business jet market share losses and weak growth across segments. So one to keep an eye across in the industrial sector here. Again, one that had been pretty high flying over the last couple of weeks here, as you can see, made a nice move up once across the 200-day simple moving average, but taking a little bit of a pullback. So if that's a company you felt that you missed out on, maybe you could get an opportunity here. I'd be looking for a pullback towards that 78 level as a nice spot. If you get a bounce off of the 200-day, MA might be a nice little play today. Moving over to quick service restaurants this morning in the news. And here it is Sweetgreen we're looking at, down about 3.56% here. And this is one on the other end, hit a 52-week high earlier last year or late last year of $45, now trading all the way down in the $14 range. Their salad might be fresh, but the chart is definitely getting soggy here. And now TD Cowen has downgraded Sweetgreen to a hold, citing rising competition in urban markets. Their long-term outlook is positive, but near-term headwinds are real. And I would point out that's another one will be interesting to watch how they evolve. There are not many of those here in the Midwest where I live. In DC, which is their parent where they were founded, there were a ton of them. But as it says, I also would mention that there is a ton of other options when it comes to salads in those major urban areas. You don't see that here in the Midwest as much, where maybe Panera is the company you want to look at. That's the big winner. That seems to have a pretty decent moat in that area and around here. Another one getting hit here, and this is the second aviation company we're talking about this morning. So again, business jet travel seems to be under pressure. Joby down about 1.23 this morning. They did have a big move up yesterday. And the news here is that Joby is the first flying taxi to get approved in the UAE. So first flying taxis in the UAE planned for 2026 launch. So we do see the aerial mobility story continuing to gain altitude. it's going to be an interesting one to watch, because again, that would be the type of thing you look to come maybe to New York City or other areas here. We know Uber has their helicopter service, but we'll see how this first flying taxi rolls out in the UAE and in Dubai. But it was up significantly yesterday, pulling back a little bit here today. A little bit of a double top here on the hourly chart, in my personal opinion, and a breakdown, quite frankly, below 1040. 1040 probably gives you downside back towards that 975 area. So, got a lot of hype on their news yesterday. Looks like it's wearing out here. We had the second pump and now pulling back from that level. We do see advanced decline even moving a little bit more to neutral here, down about 320. We started off down about 380. SPY is moving up, and QQQ moving up slightly here over the last 7 or 8 minutes. Not a significant gain, but SPY now down 21 basis points. QQQ down 30 basis points. VIX is back down at 1722 here. Again, a little high for me versus where I got in, more at that 16 level with some long dated calls. Gold getting a little bit of love today. Definitely a little flight into safety and back into gold after dipping down to lows back almost all the way to that 32.50 level. It has regained almost all the way to 33.50 here. So, the level Peter Thomas said it was going to fall to, our gold expert here at Quasar Markets, almost to the dollar there. He had 32.68, so it came a little lower than that, but a nice bounce back since then. Although I did see some analyst reports, that did point out gold is starting to get a little overheated again. Not sure which way I agree with that, but we'll see what how that plays out. Silver back above 36 here. Again, it dropped down to mid 35s over the weekend. Now back up above 36. Bitcoin struggling at 106,600 here. I do think it looks more short-term bullish, unable to break and hold above that 108K. Made a big attempt on the weekend, made a little attempt yesterday, but we do see seems to be a sell the rip as opposed to a buy the dip so far on Bitcoin. I am looking for a drop back down towards that 102 level if 106,250 does not hold. 106,250 going to be the big level to watch here this morning. If we see liquidation start to take off at that spot, look for more downside towards 102 there. Looking at again some of the stocks moving the most this morning. Progress Software down about 3% here after their earnings. They posted decent earnings, but they missed revenue by a hair. They also announced a new AI startup acquisition in Spain, Nuclea. But so far the market is fading the stock. Like I said, down almost 3% here this morning. What continues to move up, although nowhere near its high, is a 300. And again, I've made it clear I would not be a buyer on Circle until it came back towards that 80 level is quite honestly where I like it. So it's still got a significant downside before I am a player in it here. And you can see the huge pullback since 300. Again, I was a buyer at 80, not a buyer at 180, and especially not at 280. The bigger news around Circle in the last 24 hours is that they have applied for a U.S. national bank charter. If approved, they'll launch the first national digital currency bank offering blockchain custody services. It's a major step in crypto infrastructure. Anchorage is the only other digital bank that has a national charter. They've had it for a long time. So this would be the second one. We'll be interested to see how this plays out. Custodia was turned down for this, has a similar setup to, or wanted to have a similar setup to what Circle has. So it will be interesting to see what happens here. I'm sure Caitlin Long and the folks over at Custodia are watching this very closely to see what happens. As I mentioned, Robinhood, another one that just can't stop, won't stop. 94.01 here in the pre-market. This is the one when it dipped after not getting included in the S&P 500 recently and came back down towards the 68 level. I told you I loved it there. Nice play up here to 93. Starting to get a little top heavy for me, probably an area to take some profit. More looking for that more at that 98 level personally. So looking for a little bit more upside out of Robinhood here. But great announcement yesterday by the CEO Vlad. They are going to challenge what Coinbase has already done. And I will tell you with this, in my mind, Robinhood has a chance to become the largest used blockchain DApp in the ecosystem on the day it launches. Not the day it launches in Europe, but when the regulatory approvals come for here in the US. I do think it's going to take that. But, you know, their user base is huge, especially in the US when it comes to retail trading. Their app is extremely easy to use. What they showed yesterday for how you will be able to interact with perpetual futures, tokenized stocks, and other things there in Europe, again, was very much click and go. And that's been the thing. The question has always been for Web3 and for the world of decentralized finance, which is what that is now getting into, is user interface needed to come a long way. And the two leaders in that, in my opinion, right now are Robinhood and Coinbase. The difference is Robinhood has a huge head start in the stock market, which is a much bigger market. So, you know, it's sort of a tale of two companies. Coinbase pulling back here today, down about 2.57%. Again, another one, though, that's been a high flyer and is up, you know, 36% year to date. So I don't want to act like, you know, Robinhood has been dying. I mean, like Coinbase has been dying. But Robinhood up 142% year to date. Coinbase, up until this point, I've been playing a lot with Coinbase and their app and how that interacts in the user interface that it has into the world of DeFi. And again, excellent user interface, very easy to go between the decentralized apps. And up until this release, or until Robinhood kicks theirs off and kicks it off in the US, Coinbase, in my opinion, has the best centralized spot to go to start sort of app store to start to play on in the world of DeFi. But those two to me are light years ahead of the other companies that are looking to do it. Kraken's been, you know, Kraken's going to try to make a move into that space sooner than later. We'll see how that works out. I am a fan of their stuff. Their problem is that after, you know, they decided under the last administration to sign off some rights to the SEC to settle their suit. And unlike Coinbase, who fought to the bitter end, those companies that did do those sign-offs are being penalized, quite honestly, for that, because they signed off on some rights to some things that they're now trying to get back when it comes to the ability to list futures contracts and other things. Coinbase already has futures there. Robinhood's going to have futures. So, you know, again, to me, the two companies that are going to have a very significant offering of stocks, options, futures, crypto are going to be Robinhood and Coinbase as the two major players. We'll see what Schwab and some of these other companies do. They can close that, you know, gap quickly. And I will point out that Robinhood is using Bitstamp to do their crypto stuff. So again, partnering or purchasing a already existing crypto exchange would start to move some of these in the right direction. But it's more about building out that user interface, like I said, that's going to make it easy for people to interact with the world of DeFi. We are about 5 minutes from the open here. Again, not really. Actually, Qs have slipped right back down to where they were when we opened this morning, just below 550, 549.66. So they had moved back up, but now trailing back off to that same area. So again, it does not seem like it's really a buy the dip so far. It seems to be a sell the rip. Any moves up are sort of being sold off from what I can see. do have a bunch. I mean, there are a bunch of things moving, so we'll keep through it here. Wolfspeed, another Bitcoin mining company, data cloud service. I don't know what they're reinventing themselves up as now, but they are up, close to, where are they? Oh, I've changed my screen here. Up almost 86%. Yes, you hear that right, 86%. Keep in mind that this is a company that used to trade in the 20s, and it's now trading at 74 cents. But they did file a prepackaged Chapter 11 to restructure its debt and expects to emerge clean by Q3. It is a big deal. It was thought that this company more likely was headed towards bankruptcy, like permanent bankruptcy, than beginning restructure under Chapter 11. But again, it does seem like appetites for blockchain and crypto are pretty big. So they were able to find some funding or agreements with their creditors. Big move up. I don't have a play on this one way or the other, except to point out that it hasn't made the big secondary move that you usually see on this. So you could see a secondary pump to try to challenge $1. But again, they have done their restructure there. Meta is not moving today. Really, where is it? Pretty flat on the day. It was almost completely flat when I did this, but they did have the other big news that I sort of saw on the morning. They are launching their super intelligence division. It's going to combine what is basically their large learning model team, product AI, and core research teams together, trying to position themselves as an AI heavyweight to keep an eye on. So, those are sort of the pre-market movers that I was watching so far. And again, as a market backdrop, you got the S&P, NASDAQ, and Dow all set to open slightly down. Gold is up almost 1.3%. So we do see a possible flight to safety. 10-year yields are dropping back down. So they are at 4.19%. Man, the thing that keeps on getting beat up here, without a doubt, is the Dixie, now down below 97, although moving up a little bit here this morning. Hit a low of 96.40 before starting to move up. But again, path of least resistance still seems to be to the downside. For me, as a simple look, you've got to get rid of lower lows and lower highs. And we're at about 7 or 8 days of lower lows and lower highs. DXY back to lows, I think, since 2022. Yeah, lows that we haven't seen since 2022. So since we were coming out of COVID, and it just keeps on sliding. I mean, there's no other way to say it. The winner has definitely continued to be the euro at almost $1.18, broke above $1.18 earlier tonight, and continuing to just, Christine Lagarde's winning. She's definitely winning versus Jerome Powell. For sure. That's the only way to look at that. I will say the yen has dropped a little bit here, 143. So the strength in the yen also, we're not seeing that safe haven run so far. The CAD, after announcing that they will restart the trade negotiations, has seen a little bit of love too, up about 20 basis points. On the other side of that, US MEX down even further, 1868, down below the 200-day moving average now, and looking like it's continuing to drop lower here. So currency markets not really showing a clear direction or a clear buy the dip buy on King Dollar again. Still, it is still not finished dipping. It's going. When we look at the sectors of the S&P here, right now, energy slate up. We are open. Let's see what we get here on the open. Q's right around that 549.75 area, let's call it, for the open. First move is slightly to the upside. Let's see if we can break and hold above 550 here, trying to get above it. Tick is fairly negative here, down 7, almost 800 in advanced decline. It has dropped about 2,200 here to the downside. So again, while everything seems to be sort of holding in place, not a big explosive move one way or the other, I do think we'll start to see decreasing volumes across the board here over the next couple of days. It is a half day on Thursday. Markets do close at noon, and they are closed on Friday. So I do want to point that out. I do think you'll start to see traders, quite honestly, tomorrow around noon, you'll see volume really start to dissipate across the market. So keep an eye on it. Yesterday we actually saw some pretty big candles at the 3 o'clock hour. So we did see some trading in the last hour yesterday. We'll see if that picks up again today. Let's take a look at the Mag 7. Everything except for Apple opening to the downside. Tesla down almost 8% here, down at 294, continuing to drop. Again, Steve says he's a buyer in that 280 area. I don't argue that one at all. You can convince me for sure to maybe get in a buy the dip type of situation there on that. Trying to take a look here, see what else is hitting the screens. Nothing that all exciting. I will say I am close to taking profit. I told you guys last week when I bought Goldman Sachs. It is up about 10% since then, and I am looking to probably close out that position. I wanted to see if we could get one more pump back up towards that 720 area. Doesn't look it, so I will probably look to take profit here on that. And again, I've been in it since 640 here, so got into it on this pullback back on the 23rd. Nicely played out. Not going to get out of it yet. We're going to see. As long as it stays above 704, I'm still going to stay in it, but I'm going to set a stop loss below that 704. Don't want to see it fill this gap back down to the 690 area. So that is what I'm looking at. Apple retracing. So we are seeing, again, Apple twice on the rips, seeing a little bit of a sell-off here. And I definitely had some news on Apple here. Keep in mind, so Apple's down about 18% year to date. The only thing it's not trailing is Tesla, which is down about 21%. But we did see Apple just break out of a month-long consolidation, gained 2% on Monday, closed above 205, highest since mid-May. The catalyst seems to be that Apple has finally realized that their AI was not up to par, and they are maybe going to abandon their in-house AI and adopt third-party AI tech. Reportedly for their Series 2 marks a major strategy shift. Can't beat them, join them, maybe buy them. Fundstrat's Mark Newton said this breakout could mark the beginning of a broader tech rally extension. And Newton did point out that 214 would be the critical technical breakout level for Apple. Above that, confirmation of bullish momentum. So, again, Apple looking like it has a little bit of a recovery, could unlock some new upside in tech, especially with the sector already challenging all-time highs without Apple playing in the game, so to speak. So I did like that article, thought it was interesting. Apple moving up a little bit on that news. Let's see what it does, though, today. Tick's getting significantly better here, down about 180. But not much of a move to the upside on a broad market. The advanced decline has gotten better by about 400. It was minus 2,200 now negative 18. Gold at that 33.50 level seems to be the key resistance here today to watch. Bitcoin holding up at that 106,780. Actually got a little bit of steam since the cash open. Again, I'm watching how it reacts on any drop down to 106,250 or so as the key area to keep an eye on. Do want to take a look and see if crypto mining companies were getting hit pretty hard in the pre-market. They do seem to be bouncing back. They had a strong day yesterday. They do seem to be bouncing back pretty nicely so far. Bank sector, like I said, continuing to move to the upside. I've been looking for a laggard here to move to sort of rotate out of Goldman Sachs. I was looking maybe at JP Morgan, but now that's back at all-time highs too. Not sure my play there if I stay in the banking sector with that money, what I'd look for. Let's see what else is moving here this morning. Seen a little bit of a bounce back by AV, now down about 6.8% here this morning. Hasbro continuing to run slightly up 2.3%. As I said, Hyatt on their upgrade by TD Cowen up about 2.69%. Joby is the interesting one. Sell the news for sure event here. I'd be interested on a drop back down to the 950 area. Even close the gap down to this 965. And I am interested in Joby. So there are a couple that are maybe given a buy the dip opportunity. Circle continuing to slide here. Again, this one, I think it slides all the way back down to that 150 area personally. Robinhood continuing to move up here. Going to challenge 98. It looks like it's all-time high. Coinbase not finding any love yet. Don't think I'll necessarily get a chance, but I liked it down here more at this 325 area. I was hoping for basically a half measured move back. You can see somewhere in this 310, 325 area. Doesn't look like I'm going to get it. Now looks like it wants to fairly quickly close the gap to the upside here. I think I'm going to buy a little Coinbase here. I'm going to put in a buy at this 326 level, 326.68. So I'm going to see if I can get some. Yeah, I put an order in there for that. 326.68 if it hits that level. So not really a buyer there. Joby looks like it wants to fill that gap down to 950. That's why I'd really like that. So that one gets interesting too. Let's see if there's anything else that catches my eye. Not so far. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Tick is gone positive here, like I said, so we are moving in the right direction. We are seeing a little bit, not really much of the buy the dip so far across the Qs or the SPY, but we are seeing it a little bit here across individual stocks that are moving up. Like I said, Mag 7 not participating. When the Mag 7 decides to participate today, we could start to see some green. The other sector I'll mention that is up today is gaming. Melco, one of Steve and mine favorite overseas Macau gambling sites, led the charge here, up about 10% here this morning. This was after JP Morgan raised them from neutral to overweight. So that was the only real thing I saw there. But Las Vegas Sands also up. And what it is the reason for this is that Macau is showing a June gambling revenue up 19% from the year earlier. So we're seeing maybe some folks headed back to Macau, where the folks from Hong Kong and mainland China go to do their gambling, and all those are moving up nicely. Win another one up 6.93. So the all of the gaming companies that are located or have big casinos in Macau are moving up here today. Miners were the other sector that were moving up here today. Again, we know they got hit pretty hard over the last couple of weeks, but they continue now to move to the upside. We see SSRM up about 1.1%, NEM at Newmont up 1.63%. So we do see that. Another Bitcoin mining company that jumped up, wow, really jumped up here as the news must have got out, is they are the latest Bitcoin mining company to break 50 on their hash rate. So a big move up on their hash rate. They announced IREN. They met their capacity goal. Actually, here's an article on it. So they met their 50 exahash per second self-mining capacity. Milestone marks a 50x organic scale up over the last 30 months. And IREN moving up nicely today on that news. This is one that has continued to set all-time highs over the last few sessions here. So continuing to move up nicely. 3.58, where does that put them versus? And they quickly have moved into, it looks like, about fourth space, fourth or third in the largest Bitcoin mining company. So IREN, which at one point was smaller than CleanSpark and Riot, has now become bigger, it looks like, than those two. Well, no, Riot's a little bigger still, but definitely nice move up by them. Tick pretty flat here. Let's take a look at the sectors of the spider. So we see XLB, which is the material sector, and XLP, which is consumer staples, and healthcare are actually the three green sectors today, really being led by consumer staples, quite honestly. Biggest losers on the day: energy now down 60 basis points, consumer discretionary down 66 basis points. So we are seeing, in general, broader move to the downside across the different sectors. Q has now slid. Q's down now about 40 basis points, so we do continue to see a little bit of a slide there. Okay, everybody, we've hit 9:45. I tend to run out of much to say when I'm by myself at this point. So we've had a good look at the markets this morning. Again, I am looking for maybe a buy the dip opportunity on Coinbase, put it in order there. Looking at Tesla for any kind of drop towards 280, although it is moving back up, about to challenge 300 to the upside, maybe. Those were sort of my bigger plays that I was looking at in the pre-market. Joby, another one, if it fills the gap to the downside around 950, gets a little interesting for me also. So those are the things I'm sort of looking at today. Everybody have a fantastic trading day, and we will see you tomorrow.